to Buddy, quickly outside 50 around Doherty, then around Weedery, back to Buddy, brilliant build up, brilliant football. Is there anyone better than this man?
Nice package. Buddy Franklin, 57 goals for the season. Josh Kennedy has 3 more in the Coleman medal. Josh played yesterday, of course, for the Eagles. Home final in the offing for this crowd, provided they can keep on winning. Their record is 12-5. They've lost 2 of their last 4 cheaply. The Bulldogs beat them by 4 points and Hawthorn by 5 as we go down to John Longmire with Peter Bell.
Yes, here with John Longmire. John, you've had some gripping encounters with Fremantle at this oval, and notwithstanding they're further down the ladder, they're still going to be tough to overcome today.
Yeah, absolutely. We know any team coached by Rossi Lyons, a quality outfit. They're really disciplined, hard, and obviously a lot to play for with Pav today.
Terrific to get your co-captain Jared McVeigh back into the lineup.
Yeah, it's good to get him back, Belly. It's he's a quality player for us. He's very important in our leadership, and he knows what's going on the ground. So it's good to get him back in.
John, good luck.
Good on you, Pete. So the Fremantle Dockers set to come out. Disappointing season, just the 3 wins. Lost badly last week and expected to be a little bolder, I think, against the Suns. But that's in the past. It's all about Matthew Pavlich today.
It's the big name milestone. It's interesting, I heard a number the other day that Lockie Neal's had 560 disposal, and only Wayne Richardson in 71 and Dane Swan in 09 and 10 have had more than that up to this stage of the season. So he's been prolific, hasn't he? And we see the Pavlich family now.
Wife Lauren, the children, Harper and Jack. And their broad shoulders. Ornament to the game. Harper could walk. So much respect and love for the former South Australian here in Western Australia.
And of course his parents Steve and Jan have come across from Adelaide for this occasion. He does have another moment to remember in round 23, all things being equal, against the Western Bulldogs, which will be his farewell game. But 350 matches, and this will go down as a piece of memorabilia in the Pavlich household.
And Steve was a fine player in his own right in the SANFL. Only the 15th player in AFL history to reach 350 games. Matthew Pavlich will be back with the game right after this.
There you go.
Good luck.
How are you guys? Well, it's a bit loud, isn't it? Hey, doing a hop down and run? Doing a hop down and run with Daddy? Yeah. Do hold Dad's hand. Good girl. Bit loud, isn't it, mate? Good girl. Thanks, guys. You up under? Good girl. Let's go. Here, Jack, you got a case. Do you want to keep running with Dad? Let's go. See you, mate.
Matthew Pavlich with a couple of issues on his mind, not the least of which making sure his 2 children get through the banner unscathed. Game number 350. And we talk about the youth that's coming through at the Sydney Swans. Well, Fremantle themselves, obviously through a very tough 2016. The departure of Matthew Pavlich in a few weeks from now, and they'll be relying on some of those younger players. They've had 3 debutants this year. Darcy Tucker comes into the side this afternoon. Sam Collins and Shane Yarran have also been exposed to AFL duty. And Lockie Well has been terrifically throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, they've had to expose the youth. Hopefully, I see Ross Lyon said before the Sandlands might come back next week. But yes, there's plenty of players that have been getting match time that are part of Fremantle's future.
Out of their past, down on the boundary, Peter Bell.
Yes, at ground level, great atmosphere here. Sea of purple. Matthew Pavlich, some great images that we've been lucky enough to provide for you at home. A couple of goal breeze, I reckon, to the city end. That's the left of screen. Going to be a little bit slippery underfoot. What a player he has been. Sydney are a team that have been renowned for going harder for longer. If Fremantle can get off to a flyer, perhaps they could produce a big upset to honour their great number 29.
Hard to believe it's almost 12 months ago, Lee, that these clubs played at this venue in a qualifying final.
Yes, no, well, the Swans have stayed up there, and we were talking about the rejuvenation with a lot of youth into their team. without falling off the perch. But you could not believe that Fremantle have gone from top of the ladder to only winning 3 games into round 18 of the following season.
Quite a few injuries, of course. Ironic then, if you think back to last year, Sydney came here with the injuries, makeshift team, and lost. Big afternoon for Fremantle. But we've talked about this, you and I, Lee. I think we're a little bit disbelieving that players can find something extra. If they do, they're condemned by their own actions, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. No, I don't think it's a motivation. I mean, at the end of the game, yeah, they'll carry Pav off no matter what happens. But I don't think they're thinking about we've got to win the game for Pav. If they're thinking that way, they're not concentrating on the things that matter the most.
350 games for Matthew, but poor old Lee Spur, he notches up a century. 100 games for him has gone unnoticed through the course of the week.
Heads it is. And we have a hand it is. Right, thanks guys, all the best.
Jared McVeigh wins the toss, one of the co-captains. A joker would come off the ground and say, we did it for Lee.
As you said, the 100-game milestone on this weekend, really big milestones, doesn't seem that significant, but probably certainly significant to Lee Spur himself.
Never been around like this one. It's been a temple to milestones,
absolutely.
hasn't it?
I think we'll all remember it, to be honest, because there's sometimes you remember a particular round, and this is one of those with the 4 big milestones.
Young Taberner, he's an interesting player, has his critics in Western Australia, but I think he's going to be a good player, Lee. Have you seen much of him?
Well, enough. He's actually played some good footy. I mean, like all the tours, it's really only the absolute champion tours that can do much as in their first 2 or 3 years, but he's done enough in glimpses to think when he gets the experience and the maturity under his belt that he will be a good quality big forward, key forward.
Only kicked 1 goal in 3 games against Sydney, and that's, I guess, testament to the Swans' defence. They stifle even the best forward. So he's learnt some lessons, including in a final, and today will be another examination for him.
And Sydney with one of the great players, I've got a few actually, in the competition. I think I'm going to talk about Buddy, but I'm not. I'm going to talk about Josh Kennedy. In the last month, he's been averaging 32 possessions a game. There's Buddy, but Josh Kennedy just works so hard and so long for them. There's Josh. 2 Josh Kennedys in the league, and both of them go okay, but this guy is a workhorse.
Seems like Alex Silvani, who's only played 2 games this year, is into the side. He's going to Buddy Franklin. Not a good way actually to maintain your position, I wouldn't have thought.
I would have gone with a pad. That would have been a promoter's dream, the pab on Buddy. Do it. Should have suggested that when he was up here before the game with us, Ross Lyon. Naismith is a good player. Gives it off to Lloyd. Short one comes to Hanbury. Hooks down inside the forward 50. That's a very good kick. Rowan to space. What a wonderful kick. And now 50.
Yeah, he actually tackled him after he marked the ball. Not quite sure what he must have thought it was touch Spur, but it was a bad error. It makes a possible goal into an absolute certainty.
Right in front.
Maybe when he looks back to Pat, he can skip this on the replay if they happen to win. That was a terrible start for them. And Rowan puts it through for Sydney.
Let's have a look at this. He marks the ball. That's the easy part. And then Spur keeps going. He must have thought it was touched. A complete lapse of concentration. Costly.
So Sydney strike first on Sunday afternoon football. Naismith and Clark. Kennedy. They gather, and Main put enough pressure on. De Boer back into the side. Across to Pearce. Plenty of elevation with that kick. Mitchell with a hand to it. Hill over the top. A scrap and a stoppage, which those 2 terms synonymous with matches between these clubs.
Keep that meter up.
Clark and Naismith. Neither first choice ruckman. Certainly Naismith gets his chance. Heaney across to Jack. A couple of Dockers go to ground, including Crozier. Papley didn't make contact. Runners in support. McVeigh, Franklin fends it back, but couldn't get the angle.
Well, he had the shot, and I reckon 9 times out of 10 he probably would have made the shot, but popping the handball onto Rowan might have been the option. You're still got to give the ball to the player who is not under pressure. But he took it on, missed.
Sheridan with the trainers. Miscue from Hill. Works out okay. De Boer, he's at right half back. Decides to run. Comes to Mundy. Cramp for room. Not well thought out. And the ball goes out of bounds after this smother from Smith. So we get a boundary throw in left half forward. Buddy taking that last shot at goal. Having a good season. 3 hauls of 5, 6 hauls of 4.
one area of concern for Fremantle, the speed in the Sydney Swans lineup. Franklin, also Gary Rowan is absolutely lightning.
Not a lot of depth on that throw in. Parker finds a way through, sends it long down towards full forward. Again, the breeze catching it, and everything down there is going right to left.
Thanks, Gary. Blue dot.
It's a fluky wind here in Perth this afternoon. Early rain, making conditions a little slippery, perhaps underfoot. Ibbotson given the opportunity to bring the ball back.
Played reasonably man-to-man to defend that first kick in. There's mostly Swans players against Docker opponents. That's the style at the moment.
Crozier's kick lacks any depth. It's coming back. Fremantle for Clark in defence. A couple of turnovers. Might see a bit of that this afternoon, given the conditions. Clark angles it wide. Walters has got 2 to beat. Naismith across to Jack, conceding ground. Little fumble by Grundy. And Mills, the smother. 3 Dockers in the vicinity. Mills did brilliantly. Comes across to McVeigh. And Towers in space. Drives a long ball. Rowan halves the contest. Ibbotson, a cool head, and Silvani playing just his first game for the year. Partially smothered by Hanbury. Naismith's been busy early. The release hand pass was sound. Hanbury. Mitchell worked off it by Walters. Going to ground was Silvani. Intercepted by Taberner. Deep in defence. Aaliyah, a hand to it. McVeigh cleverly back to Aaliyah. He sends it wide. Hanbury just inside the 50. And that ball not quite coming back, but the Swans doing all the attacking.
Got the field position, the Swans, and they're just locking the ball in. All the numbers, of course, in the front half of the field, but Fremantle have got to get the first kick to get out of this deep defence. Can't manage it.
Very short to Mundy. Out wide, Crozier goes along the boundary line. Pav into the action. Towers, though. Now Parker to Kennedy, bearing down. Main got him. Loose ball, rolls out the back. Lockie Neal got it away initially, but it's not coming out now. Mills, Rampy having a fine season. Kicks inside the forward 50. Well done. Putting back his Collins. Doug Naismith, watching tape, Lee. He's going to be a talent. Here's Crozier on the outer side.
To the wing. Ali's got 2 to beat here. That's pretty well. And was held in the process. That was a little win there for the Swans. Aaliyah, one of those 7 debutantes, been blooded by Sydney this year. Naismith, as Dennis suggested, big man with a even brighter future.
Takes his footy seriously too. He's had a haircut since we saw him last. He was uncertain at that stage.
Another forward 50 entry. Franklin, Silvani enough pressure, but he was taken high.
Not the strength of his game, Buddy. That overhead marking sort of took it. This doesn't seem to clunk these first grab very often. But Silvani pulled him down.
6 inside 50 Sydney, 0 to Fremantle. Worrying signs, although Sydney do have the aid of the breeze as Franklin plays on.
Lays it off to McVeigh, so I expect every Dockers defender was expecting Lance to go for home, but he took something off the kick, and McVeigh just trying to get a lead on this breeze.
Good use. I mean, he might have been able to kick the ball maybe 5 out of 10 from his position. He was Franklin, but you put it back into the centre corridor, and McVeigh has got the breeze at his back.
280th game for the co-captain, and that again is pushed across to the left-hand side. Not easy conditions in front of goal, and the Swans are fighting that out. Fremantle wish they had that opportunity.
No, they can't get anywhere near their forward half at the moment. Not only forward 50, they just haven't really got over centre field.
Nervous moments here, but Pearce pops it to the wing. Smith, well positioned. Pavlich couldn't prevent the mark being taken. Off to Rampy. It's coming back, although well corralled by Clark, and that ball sails over and out.
Breeze grabbing it, so it's quartering down towards that pocket. Won't be easy to kick goals. Mundy, as Fremantle try and break the shackles, he drives it up towards the wing. Big pack, hands to it. Pavlich couldn't hang on. Taberner stood up in a tackle. Sheridan, hurried kick down towards half forward. Dawson comes to the football. Aaliyah got him. He's trying in there, Dawson. Is he trying hard enough? Now the umpire pounces.
Strong tackle. He clamped him. I don't know whether he had prior opportunity, but he got pinned anyway.
And that Breeze again taking the ball to the boundary line. Now it's holding. And it's a free kick for Lance Franklin, who didn't know he'd earned a free kick. One on the mark, virtually on the line. Silvani. Big job this afternoon. Here's Mitchell, surrounded. Sends a long ball down towards full forward. In front, Naismith. In fact, it was Nankervis who got his hands to it, and the ball goes across the boundary line. Kieran Jack at the base of all of that.
And Zach Dawson is actually playing forward this week, certainly at this point of the game anyway. He's accompanying Pavlich as the height in the Dockers forward line. Not that it's happened. Not that they've got anywhere near their forward zone for their forwards to get involved.
Like a vortex, that forward pocket at the moment. Mitchell got it from Kennedy. Turned over, Langdon, Pearce. And Mundy spots Pavlich. And every time he goes near it this afternoon is a cause for celebration for Fremantle supporters. Kicks to a contest. Dawson is outnumbered. Halved it though. At the spill. Neal. Mundy in desperate trouble. Gets it back to Pavlich. A hurried ball. Sydney well represented. And Cunningham has Kennedy to use. At half back. Richards releases Cunningham. And he's away. Hill in pursuit. Making no ground. Cunningham, good use. Rowan, not quite. Ibbotson with a fist. That ball's heading towards the goal mouth. Dockers caught off guard to some extent. And another behind. 1-5 on the board to the Swans. They're having plenty of it in the opening stages of Sunday afternoon football.
They've got a great ability, the Swans defence, to make sure they don't get sucked so far upfield that if there is a quick kick forward out of the midfield, they always have a Swans defender back. Quite often it's Rampy, but they are just making it like a brick wall pretty much. Back half of the field.
Sheridan out of defence then. Ball holding up. Rampy over the top, knocked it down. Grundy, a hand pass, gives it to Kennedy. Just behind Parker, but he was good enough to reach back. Cunningham. Franklin created his own space with the hand. Just chopping back and then hanging on long enough.
You feel for Alex Silvani, sorry guys there, but there's just so much space in that forward line and very little pressure up the field, Lee.
Well, it was, although he clumped that one. That's the one he doesn't, his hands aren't necessarily, I mean, he just is not as sure. It's the one flaw in his game that every now and again lets him down, but he just had the half a metre, and that's all he did, particularly when he's a much taller man than Silvani.
This is not a good specialty to have, is it, if you're Silvani? Just come in now and again and play on Lance Franklin. Then take a sabbatical, have a lie down. Back you come again.
Oh. Don't want to wreck anyone else's confidence. Is that the theory?
Right. Just hone in on one bloke and give him therapy. There's Ibbotson. Very short. This guy having a terrific year. Averaging 33 possessions, Neil. The Pavlich direction at the back, had it fucked away by Rampy out of bounds.
Well, it's just the forward half dominance at the moment. 11 inside 50s to 0 to Fremantle, so they're just dominating field position. They've been inaccurate though. 1 goal 6. Could easily be 6 goals 1 and the game's almost broken open, but the inaccuracy has prevented that.
12 plays nothing. Neal onto the boot and couldn't keep it in play. You talk about the numbers for Lachie Neale. 4 times this season, 40 plus disposals, including last week up on the Gold Coast. But he's a one-man band inside that centre square at the moment. Mills lobs it just inside the 50. Spur dropped it. Hanbury swoops and slides it home. The Swans have 2.
Let's have a look at this. Ball falls over the back. And they just ran onto the ball, the Swans forwards. Had 3 of them that could have got it. The Fremantle just cannot win the footy, cannot get forward entries.
Black knocks it down. Mundy advances. Down goes Neal. This would be the closest they've come, I reckon. Put inside 50. Edging through the square.
It's about as far forward as Fremantle have got, about 15 metres forward of the centre circle.
Naismith knocked it down decisively. Parker standing at his feet. Mundy, nowhere to go. Back to Neal. Does nicely. Took the long option. Ibbotson, probing kick inside the forward 50. Again, caught by the breeze, blown towards the boundary. Smith takes it in that direction. Grundy knew exactly what he was doing. He was counting on a stronger tackle, I think. Boundary throw in.
That's a little bit when the poor team do a lap of honour when they win the toss.
Just very noticeable.
First time Fremantle got anywhere near their goals.
Very noticeable the kicks holding up into the Fremantle end as well, guys.
A couple of Bronx cheers. The Dockers with an inside 50, their first of the afternoon.
Thank you.
Darcy Tucker, last player to emerge. Tabata opposed to Naismith. Parker, one-arm pinned, somehow got boots a ball. To half-back, Richards over it. Spur, Neil.
Thank you.
And the umpire intervenes.
Thanks, Lockie. Come out here. No holding rucks.
Just outside the 50 for the Dockers. Clark directs it down. Weller finds some space. And the ball works its way over and out.
Now this is testing the boundary umpire too, because they've all been falling in short, well short of the ruckman, so they need to wise up and the guys in front need to turn around.
Sometimes you look at the ruckman though, they're almost back in the centre square. They start so far, but almost like as if they're playing for back position. Unless it's a big throw in, they often just don't reach it.
Normally a swirly breeze here in Perth, the three-tiered stand giving some protection. The causing issues so far is Neil taken down by Jack unceremoniously.
Thank you. Thank you, Lockie.
They've plenty of the football, Sydney, but they've had 12 tackles already. They don't let you get clear. They just nail that tackle. Not many missed ones. They're critical too.
Naismith doing it in the ruck and at ground level. Canterbury doesn't have much depth on that kick. Franklin caught behind, and Ibbotson with the intercept.
Sheridan looks inside the forward 50, drives it long. Clark in best position, off hands. Pavlic's back, how about this? Lays it off, Tabata goes in, kicks the goal. Against the flow.
Pavlich, the crowd had wanted him to go, but they gave it to his teammate in a better position, which he did. It's amazing. 8 scoring shots to 1, but only a 12-point margin. Sydney's inaccuracy just kept the door open for Fremantle.
Unselfish to the extreme by Matthew Pavlich. But Matt Tabata on the end of a cheap goal, and
Thank you.
as mentioned, against the flow. Sydney have owned the football in the opening stages of this one. Kennedy taken down by Weller. Aaliyah from both angles. Walters couldn't control it. Mills. Up and down it goes. Heaney, and at the spill, it's Hewitt across to Lloyd. Rampy so good this year. Heaney's released, and now Lloyd runs on across the wing. Almost to the 50. Richards couldn't take the mark. Jack over it. Traps it. Gives it off to Richards. A step. A kick. And Franklin. Lance just out-bodying Zach Dawson.
Dawson's gone back. He's obviously looked like he had the Franklin match-up at this point of the game.
Perfect.
Silvani might be just having a spell on the bench, I guess.
Kicking from this part of the ground's been difficult, but Franklin puts it through, and the Swans get the quick response.
Here's the Franklin goal, one-on-one. That's a genuine one-on-one mark against Dawson that set it up.
Back in the middle then. Margin 18 points. Naismith up very high. Mundy, did he have the football? Lets them play. Weller, Mundy under pressure. Getting a fist in there, Sydney, and that was enough. Parker comes away, run down, brilliantly done. Weller will get a free kick. Good hard chase back there. Moments before had been contesting the ball. Now he goes out wide. Poor kick though. That's his copybook. Heaney.
Fremantle started the 7th defender at the centre bounce, so they're going to try and work the ball out. Because clearly the Swans are going to have a spare up their back half, so you've got to work it out if you're choosing to play that, have that extra.
Luke Parker, terrific. Ghosting across in front of the pack there. He's about 70 metres out. A lot of grass behind the pack. High ball comes in. He can run to it now. Hewitt just gives it off. It was at Towers, smothered off the boot of Kennedy. Ricochets down towards the pocket. Comes back to Kennedy, but it's going to be a Dockers free kick. The ball taken crudely in the tackle, pushed in the back. Gives it to Collins. Collins miscues with a kick. Oh, well done by May. Needed to mark it. Surrounded by Swans. Thinks about the give. Pavlich is on the move, and he'll get the footy.
Former skipper. Not much to go to. Walters offers, and a little push from Smith presents an opportunity for Walters, and more importantly for St Dockers to get inside their attacking 50.
They push back hard, the Swans. They always make sure they got the extra number. Back 50 always make be hard to score against.
Tapper outnumbered but got fists to footy. Pavlich was there. Dawson playing forward. Grundy. Pavlich takes him to the deck. Sheridan. Ball in dispute. 3 sets of hands on the ball at any given time.
That's a good bit of play from Taberner. No one's expecting him to mark those sort of balls, but just bring it to ground, reset and get another opportunity.
Dawson in the ruck. Outsides on that occasion. An opportunity for Sutcliffe. Defensive handball. Hill. And now Crozier drives it long. And offhand, so many numbers for the Swans. Anxious moments here for Collins. Naismith looking for Franklin. Body contact made by Silvani, and Towers was over it. Had to be careful there, Collins. In fact, played it pretty well.
Did play it well. He dragged it back in at the last minute, Towers, but the umpire gave him the benefit of the doubt. Pulled it up.
Mundy gets high and slaps it straight out of bounds. The new captain, John Longmire, 3rd all-time now in games coached for the Swans. Only Ruse and Eade ahead of him. Van Curvis outnumbered. Clark after Dawson did the heavy lifting. Ball up.
Guys, nominate the ruckman. Yeah, you're going to.
Paul got the unenviable job of trying to get body contact with Kennedy around these stoppages.
Clark did well. Mundy. Main, little 1-2 with Ibbotson. Sheridan pushing up is Sutcliffe. Waited too long. Under pressure. Kicks it down towards half forward. Kennedy skirting the pack. Did brilliantly. Gave it to Lloyd. McVeigh to half forward. What a beautiful kick. Naismith spilt the mark. Picked up by Sheridan. Mundy. And now Ibbotson again drives it wide, and Clark just inside the boundary takes the mark.
Swans by 18 down the line. Pavlich. Rampy overcommitted, went to ground. Hanbury gathers. Short ball, not 15. Rampy fends off Clark. Comes in board. Not sure that kick was designed for Mills. Little flick by Dawson was clever to Tucker. A foot race. Smith and Walters. Side by side, Walters goes to ground. Smith played it well. Did he drag it back in? No, he was taken high.
He played it well, Smith, but you'd say that a lot of times. He's a really good defender. Nick Smith had the speed to get back to be in the contest against Walters and just out-positioning marginally, just high tackle.
Promising build-up for Fremantle comes to naught. Kennedy's hand pass, looping ball, over the top, Hapley. Mitchell. And advantage is paid to the Swans. Rampy looks back and takes it. Forward of the wing, the ball have to get across. Didn't make contact. That opens the way for Jack to feed Hanbury. Cruising past, has the bounce. Looks upfield, centering ball. Richards is there, has 2 to beat. McVeigh tackled. And the Dockers, through Mundy, subtly work it through for a rush behind.
He's really disappointed with himself. Sorry, Lee. Matty, the ball there. Just let that one out the back.
It was a good kick. He actually almost got up to it, Bally, but he just couldn't quite get the fingertips behind it. And once it was over the back, well, the Swans were off.
Here's Crozier. Feeds it along the boundary line. Sutcliffe goes again. Main gets by Towers. On the lead, this is Yarran. Yarran drives it out towards the boundary, intended for Sutcliffe, who's run on, well played, forced to go with the outside of the boot though, down towards Walters, so good last week, went to ground. Smith right in his hip pocket again. In comes Pearce over the top. We've got a whistle. Cunningham, the man with the football. It'll be tossed up virtually on the numbers out there. A lot of early morning rain, but the sun is out here at the main stadium at the moment. Parker Did nicely, had the sensors on there, just moving around inside that pack and found a way out. Now 50 against Crozier. So Towers with the football, and Crozier taken back beyond the wing. 25 plays 6, 4.5 minutes out from quarter time. Well, they telegraphed that. They still got away with it. 3-on-2. Lloyd goes wide to McVeigh. McVeigh just inside the boundary. High ball. Now 2-on-1 for the Dockers. Lurking behind. Lachie Neale takes the mark and plays on immediately. Runs aggressively. Main's got the footy. Wants to use him. Should have. Taken down. Rowan will get a free kick. That was poor.
Little eyes in the back of the head, mate. You must have sensed that there was pressure from behind.
Rowan's kick intercepted by Neale, so the Dockers with a second chance to exit. Kick by Sheridan. Dawson did well enough against Aaliyah. Rampy springs to his feet. Mills back inboard. Nankervis and now Grundy. Awkward bouncing ball, which Neale does pretty well. Hanbury takes him to the deck. Ibbotson surrounded. And the whistle arrives. 19 points of lead. Probably indicative, Lee, of what we've seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're basically for 3-7, though. That's with 10 scoring shots to 1. I think that's probably more indicative of the game, but the scoreboard's the only thing that matters.
Kennedy somehow conjures a kick. Papley around his body, brilliantly spoilt by Hill. Papley goes again, puts a head down, then he's dumped. Well, he found out the hard way. And Papley, to his credit, wholeheartedly going after the footy, but Sam Collins had the last say.
Did a good drop, Collins. He had his head over the football. He just made sure that he didn't fall over his head and upper body. Would have been an automatic free. So then he got the second option, second effort.
Not a particularly good kick. Lloyd was in front, didn't take the mark, then hand pass straight to Mundy. Clark, Pearce, Crozier, busy at halfback, touched off the boot. Aaliyah's in front, tackle from behind by Crozier. The umpire, and we'll get a ball up close to the boundary line. In fact, the tackle I think came from Tuckett, last man up there.
Who's going up? You two. Can't hit over on the foot.
Close to the boundary line. Swans by 19. Clark is there, Jack as well. Neale on the up to the ball. Hand pass, Taberner. Great dexterity to find an exit from that congestion. Aaliyah's kick is over and out.
A lot of concern for Fremantle with that stat that just flashed up on the screen. 50 contested possessions to 25. That needs to correct itself if they're going to be competitive.
Best contested team in the competition, the Sydney Swans. Today's an example of that. Mills spun out of trouble. Rampy. Central ball. Well weighted. Mitchell. Jack. And Franklin. Up the ground. It's an open 50-metre to look at. Heads laterally on the half volley. Rowan. Ibbotson has him. And the Fremantle Docker has won himself a footy.
Had plenty of open space, but picked the wrong option, really. The Swans forward. It might have been Richards forward of the ball. The Towers needed to go back into the space behind, but led forward. Caused the Swans to go sideways.
The ball gets it from Ibbotson, goes back to Collins. Short one. Okay, Silvani just outside the defensive 50. Margin 19 points. Sydney on top. Could have been more. A lot more. Silvani to the wing. Holds up in the breeze. Clever. Grundy. Good player for a long time. Nothing special about him. Does everything pretty well. Just lobs it down towards half forward. Big pack from all angles, and that's what the Dockers would like to see. Silvani backing himself. And that's a terrific grab. Right half back. Pavlich is deep in defence. Starts his run from centre half back, just pushing up through the middle of the field. Silvani ignores that, kicks to the wing. 3 Sydney players up. Sheridan got the crumb. Aaliyah's in trouble. Hand pass from Grundy. Gave it to Lloyd. Now the numbers could favour them going back. A short one over the top to Hanbury. It's even numbers forward to the ball. Getting hands to it. Franklin couldn't hang on. Getting across Crozier. Sensing the danger, comes away. And that's a good kick coming out to De Boer.
Danger averted for the time being for the Dockers. Last 30 seconds of this opening quarter. The switch is made. Crozier. Right to the boundary line in the field of play. Pearce for Taverner.
Lance, keep coming this way, Lance.
Hard to see the Dockers going all the way from here. The other end of the ground and getting back with a flight. Taking it is Nick Smith. Now the Swans have dominated. They've turned it over right on quarter time. And in Matthew Pavlich's milestone game, 350, he and his team have some work to do. The Swans inaccurate, but still with a 19-point buffer on Sunday afternoon football.
Half-time here, or rather quarter-time here. 19 points the difference as we go down to Billy.
Thanks, Dan. Yes, here with Stewie G. Stewie, a terrific start. You really dominated every facet of the game.
Yeah, good start. We didn't get the reward on the scoreboard, unfortunately. It'd be nice to be 7-3, but you know, our guys, who we want to get the ball, they started getting it, just our ball use going forward.
And particularly, I thought you used the advantage across halfback really, really well, and that gave you great impetus.
Yeah, we defended well. Unfortunately, just the forward entry, you know, a couple of times went long. There's short lead-ups. They fold back really well, Freo, and we played in their hands a little bit.
Good luck in the second quarter. Thanks.
Thank you.
It was an interesting quarter, and I think pretty well summed up. Fremantle had 26 tackles, so their tackling effort's been good. That's made probably Sydney handball a little bit more than they would like. 57 kicks, 56 handball. So the Fremantle pressure, I think, is part of the reason that they haven't been able to score as well from their 10 shots at goal, although that doesn't affect, of course, the set shots, which they missed 3 or 4 of those.
Second quarter from Domain Stadium underway. It's Sydney by 19 points. The breeze a factor, inaccuracy plaguing the visitors. And the second term is underway. Naismith over the top of Clark. Overrunning it was Neal. Hill couldn't take it with him. Towers is there, so too Mitchell, who extracts it, wins it to Kennedy. Inside 50, Heaney. Spoil came from Sutcliffe. Pearce and Ibbotson both couldn't take the footy. Rowan off the outside of his boot. Franklin went to ground, and so Dawson unopposed. Across to Sutcliffe to bore the target. Mills the spoil. McVeigh searching for it. Mills arrives, and now Hanbury, was he taken high? Not according to the umpire. Naismith, McVeigh, Yarran. Not a moment to contemplate his options. Finally, Fremantle win it. Mundy and Langdon collaborate. Alir is there. Main at the back, looking for Pavlich. The ball knocked away and over the line.
Looked like he had his... No, it was body to body. Good call.
1 metre, Sam, 1 metre. 1 metre, boys.
Opening stages of this second quarter. Clark, Parker, and now De Boer. And that De Boer, tailor-made for conditions such as this. After the contested footy, an unrestricted free agent. The question is where he'll be in 2017. Neal wins it. McVeigh brilliantly had one arm pinned. Mitchell across to Parker, and turn Kennedy. Lloyd just backward of the wing in the Heaney direction. Sutcliffe the spoil. Heaney gets it back, comes to Hanbury, skirts the boundary line, kicks to the pocket. Franklin's got 3 around him, and at the spill, it's going to be a Sydney Swans goal off the boot of Towers in the goal square. And what a start for the Swans.
That's really going to the dangerous forward. The 3 Fremantle defenders all went to cover Franklin, but as soon as the ball fell, Towers was on his own. Easy goal.
Sydney by 25 points then. Good bounce. Patience. Naismith kicked it towards half forward. Kennedy controlled it well. Mitchell to Jack. Jack kicks inside the forward 50. They're queuing up the Dockers down there. Ibbotson takes the mark. Swings play towards the outer side. Mundy. Naismith overcommitted. Mundy's away as a result. Little chip pass through the middle, and Pavlich comes up and takes the mark on his chest, lays it off, run this time from Spur, the Centurion this afternoon, bounces it down towards half forward. Mitchell was in the road initially, gets it back from Smith, over the shoulder to Mills. Alir has it now. Lloyd and Grundy On the move is Kennedy. The ball goes in that direction. He takes the mark. Heaney up ahead. Well covered. So Kennedy, just for the moment, taking a break. Kicks into the man on the mark. Quite a concession. Pavlich went down. Mundy in trouble. Rampy took him down. Pavlich, ball balanced on his head. Comes out on his knees. Brilliantly played by the Pav. Gives it to Mundy, and Mundy's kicked the goal. Or has he? Yes, he has. It's on the highlight reel.
Well, he hasn't kicked a goal yet, Pavlich, but he's had 2 goal assists and they've kicked 2 goals. So every one of the couple of goals that they have got, he's been instrumental in going and winning the footy and then feeding it out to the actual goal scorer.
The former captain to the current skipper. The Dockers pull one back. Out of the middle. Hill. Intercepted by Mills. Can straighten up and drive a long ball. And Franklin is surrounded. Spur. Off to Hill. And now at right half back, it's Clark. Dockers working in the corridor. It's the corridor of uncertainty on this occasion as Hanbury goes to ground with ball in hand. Towers, Hewitt. He in turn is in desperate trouble. Mundy with a strong tackle and he's rewarded.
It's been the best part of their game, Fremantle. Their tackling pressure's been good. As I said, the Swans' ability to work their way and think their way through the tackle has been terrific as well.
Clark pitches just in front of Pavlich. Hand pass to Langdon. Pushed towards the boundary by Aliir, but terrific delivery. Silver service for Yaron, playing just his second game. A couple of goals against the Gold Coast last week. And of course, he knows this ground very well, given he was a premiership player with Subiaco in the WAFL in 2015.
Sydney's turned to be a bit wasteful there inside 50, just long kicks, Ibbotson and Spur mopping it up, and that was a really good kick from Ed Langdon to a leading Yaron.
Tricky breeze, Yaron on the runway. And the goal umpire heading across to her left-hand side. But getting more of the football down. Fremantle with the breeze, asking a few more questions of the Sydney Swans.
Lloyd to bring it in. Starting to cloud over a bit too. There's Mitchell. Feigns a hand pass. Runs away. Puts himself under pressure. Affects the kick. In front. Good mark is taken there by Nankervis.
Don't take many when a big ruckman just stands under the footy, takes a big contested mark. A couple of those earns him the spot.
Mills, Cunningham, Rampy, Leah thinks about going back to Rampy, then takes them on. Up he comes through half back. Nankervis. Franklin demands the football, goes out wide with it. They've got the numbers on the outer side too. Heaney, brilliant gather, sweeping hand pass. Franklin sustained his run, kicks inside the forward 50, loose ball at the back. Here's a chance for Rowan, couldn't take it, came again though. Rowan got the arms free, well done. Hewitt's hand pass, almost a throw by Mitchell, came across to McVeigh. McVeigh the short one, and the mark has been taken about 35 metres out by Parker.
Good play by the whole Swans team, but McVeigh's ability to just pause for the moment and actually find the free target inside 50, that's, you get a lot of inside 50s, but that's really good use. Think your way through, composed under pressure, and then a lovely execution.
Look, Parker is one of best and fairest with the Swans. That's hard to do. Some pretty hot company. Then he comes. Kick is on the way. Holds its line too. Sheltered by the tall stand. Puts it through.
This is the goal, and McVeigh actually kicked it to him, but when Parker's there, when he's got half a yard, put the ball overhead, he'll normally mark it. He's a really good inside 50 mark. Adds to his midfield repertoire.
The Swans restore that 4-goal advantage. Out of the centre square, Mundy, Spur, Clark, back to Weller, all by hand, and now Sheridan with a floater to the 50. Pavlich and Grundy, body on body. Pressure came from Main. Grundy out the back door to Mills. Dockers applying pressure, and Crozier taken down by Cunningham. Walters spins out of trouble, looking for a whistle, didn't come. And Yaron, against this Sydney defence, unlikely to find too much room.
Thank you. Backing out this way. Ruck's backing out this way.
40 out from the Dockers goal. Kicking to the City end of this second quarter. Parker couldn't control it. Hill Released on his left-hand side is Walters. Has it got the carry? Well, there's an example of the breeze. And also, great courage shown by Cunningham, who took the mark almost in the goal square.
Matthew, come back here. Thank you.
Cunningham called to move it on. And the Swans exit the 50. Parker acrobatically, one hand to it. Hanbury, Franklin pushing up the ground. Mitchell, quick hands, combines with Hanbury again. And the Swans get a good result. Dawson fits it into the interchange gates.
Just their work in close, as we see Parker with a spectacular attempt. Their work in close, Sydney. Clean ball handling, in tight. It's a feature of their game.
Great players do that, don't they? Understanding, responding like great players. Quite a few of them involved in that passage. Off the ground by Hill. Pavlich braces himself. Didn't have the footy. No free kick. Hill kicks it into Lloyd. It ricochets. Pavlich, he's got the appetite for it this afternoon. Came again. Down goes Main. Strong tackle by Naismith. And it's a ball up.
Before we hear about structures and setups and all that stuff, there's the ability to handle the ball first field and then make this good decision under pressure is always going to separate teams and players.
Mundy going okay too. Gave it to Neil, who kicked it down towards the 50. Mills was hanging on. Pavlich is tackled by Aaliyah. It fell harmlessly, taken away by Lloyd. Not so harmless now. This is Richards. Slips a hand pass to Lloyd. Goes out wide to Hanbury. Oh, what a wonderful mark. And on the way down, gave it to Jack. Spots a man on the move, Patley. And Patley's taken the mark. Patley turns around and just jabs it. Only about 5 metres. Not enough for a mark. Mundy gives a hand pass to Silvani. Oh, terrible work.
Knocked down by Towers. He's surrounded. Squeezes the hand pass out. Hanbury, great vision. Finds his good mate in Jack. Inside 50. That's charged down. And the Dockers win it back through Neil. They will be coming back, you suspect. Hewitt. Across to Hanbury. Hard up against the boundary. Pulls it back in the Franklin direction. Out the back. Chain pass. Hand pass to Heaney. And from 15 out around his body, the Swans swoop again.
Look at this, just the chain. We're not going to see the whole lot, but there's just a chain of pressure disposals that enabled Heaney to get into space and kick the easy goal 20 metres out straight in front.
Swans lead it by 30 then. Naismith has to wait, still wins it down. Neil on the way down. Spur kicks towards half forward. Well done by Main. Couldn't complete the mark though. Aaliyah did brilliantly. Found it on the ground. Heaney sold into trouble. He slipped. Picked up there by Main. Tries to feed it back towards Crozier. Hard against the boundary line. He hooks it down towards half forward. Back goes Smith. Almost the mark. Finds it on the ground. Grundy. Composure. Oh, well done. Second attempt. There was good pressure there, but Grundy gave it across to Smith, who finds the man who kicked the last goal, Heaney. Midway between right half back and right centre wing.
Heaney by hand off to Lloyd. Working their way along the boundary. Papley, a little slip, and Crozier has him cold. Hayden Crozier looking to cement his place into this Fremantle side. At the 50, Aaliyah intent on destruction.
He's been a good pick-up, hasn't he? He's keeping Ted Richards out of the side, one would think. Aaliyah, but young player, first-year player, but he looks like he's athletic, he's good in the air, seemed to make good decisions, decided then, well, mark's not on, I'll punch it out of bounds. He hasn't got a lot of experience under the belt, but he plays that way.
Education for Sam Collins continues. Thrust into the ruck. McVeigh's kick was smothered. Heaney keeps it alive. McVeigh in turn with Hanbury. Happy to keep the ball in play. Pearce wrestling for it is Dan Curvis. And again, it seems, Lee, the issue for Fremantle, as it has been for some time now, the inability to kick a score.
Yeah, no, certainly the Swans' defence, when it has been tested, has held up. Only 3 scoring shots, and we're halfway through the second quarter.
Hewitt didn't have much room to conjure any sort of meaningful disposal. As it stands, it's off the side of the boot. And the Dockers, just on 10 minutes to play before half-time, desperately need the next score.
Only had 13 inside 50, so they haven't had much access to their forward line, but the Swans' defence has been in control even when they do get that far forward.
Spur got it from Sutcliffe. Breaks away now under no real pressure. To the middle. This is Tucker. Stylish left footer comes across the ground. Pearce takes the mark. Looks inside the forward 50. Crozier offered the lead. Spectacular leap by Walters. Knocked towards the boundary. Taberner cut off there by Grundy, and the ball spills out of bounds. Evan Mundy having a good term. 10 possessions in this term.
What's the difference between realistic and unrealistic, Lee?
Michael Walters.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yes, I think that would have often been a free kick to the guy under the footy who's been jumped on.
Restart. Comes to the back, and Hanbury hands it to Towers. Interesting call if this ball does sail over the line. It doesn't. Rowan with great foot speed, opposed to Ibbotson and Gary Rowan. Well, everything was going according to plan until he lost his footing.
Yeah, it's been raining intermittently most of the morning, so the ground would be just a little slippery, and when he tried to dig in to come back inside, just couldn't get the grip.
Is there a worse feeling as Ibbotson runs him down? Silvani playing his first game for 2016. And Docker supporters a little frustrated, the ball being waxed on the last line. Spur, and now Sutcliffe can come with a more central kick. Kneeling is Hill. Will he be adventurous? Takes on McVeigh, across to Langdon. He has genuine leg speed. A couple of goals and 22 disposals against the Gold Coast last week in the Pavlich direction. Rampy, though, at the top of his game, has forced a boundary throw-in.
Just wanted to pick up on what Lee was talking about before. Much of the Sydney attention on Mills and also Heaney, but Alir, also Towers, Hewitt, they've really found some players, Sydney.
They really have. They've rebuilt on the run, haven't they? And Kerber's falling down. Collins a hand pass. Standing up in there was Kennedy. Gave it to Hanbury. There's Towers. He's had his moments this season. He's a wholehearted player. Makes a few mistakes, but can't doubt his application in terms of effort. There's Grundy. The flip side of all of that, minimum of fuss. Goes back to Towers. 13 plays 43, counting down to half-time on a Sunday afternoon in Perth. Under cloudy skies. Well, too easy for Parker, and again, just breaks away, having taken the mark. Goes down towards half-forward. Sutcliffe is there, knocked away by Richards. Well done by Ibbotson, directed the ball across to Spur, and that's a good mark by Langdon against real quality opposition. Hanbury right in his hip pocket, made no impression.
Interesting player, Langdon. Talked that he might return to Melbourne at the end of this season, perhaps even joining his brother at Collingwood. De Boer and Spur, well-weighted pass. Yaron, athletically, getting his chance in the second half of the season. Puts it in front of Main. Using the football a little better in this passage of play, the Dockers. Sheridan, back to Main, and now Spur. Inside the 50, Collins and Taberner there. Here's Pavlich's moment, but he goes to ground, and Rampy having his measure for the time being. The kick by the Swans defender just past. Parker calls for deliberate, but Sydney Swans teammate was close enough. That breeze really fluky at the left-hand side of your screen.
Rampy's got to be in the frame for All Australian. He's having a fine year. Naismith again, first hand again. Pearce, Neal, low down for Weller, went to ground. In goes Hill, trying to back out of there, but can't.
You saw now 7 coverages, so the sounds of the game with Heath Shaw mic'd up, and he and probably Rampy, they might both get into the All-Australian team, or they might well be competing for that same position as that defensive general.
Neither would be worthy.
Absolutely.
McVeigh goes after it. Hanbury on his knees, only as far as Pearce. Pearce gets this to go like a torpedo inside the forward 50. Hard to do. Mills misses the target. Now a chance for the Dockers because Neal thinks his way through things, but Yaron slipped over. Now it's with Langdon wide of the pack. And this ball caught on the breeze will go a long way. Rampy fell to ground. Pavlich stayed on his feet. Main gives it across to Crozier. Pulls it back towards the middle, and Collins. Tackled by Grundy, picked up by Taberner. Taberner stood up in the tackle, gave it to Langdon. Langdon snaps and misses. Good hard work there by the Dockers.
Showing some good moments, Langdon, when players first come into that. You have a look at them and just see what are the first glimpses, but Langdon, his first glimpses are really promising.
Last 6 inside 50s to the Dockers. Hewitt was the flyer. Hand passes out the back. Papley making his way back onto the ground. Just under 6 minutes to play before half-time. Collins in front. Kennedy, hand pass knocked down.
Thank you.
And the rain starts to tumble down at Domain Stadium. Just 2 goals next to the name of Fremantle. Hill third man up. Kennedy, as always, in congested situations, excellent. Hill flips it out the back. Sheridan, Mundy, and Langdon takes something off the kick. Havlich, terrific defence again by Rampy. Yaron goes to ground, springs to his feet, close to the line. Lloyd halves the contest. Over the top comes Mills. And yet again, this Sydney Swans defence, they don't give you an inch.
Pavley just can't get the separation from Rampy. He's just right on his tail every time the ball goes forward. He's not playing that float-off role today, Rampy. He's playing the genuine one-on-one defensive role on the 350 gamer.
The weather's arrived, lads.
Very good at it too. No sympathy up here, Billy. Just carry on. There's Sutcliffe. This one towards the boundary. It's coming back on the breeze though. Pulled a few down there. Taverner trying to knock it forward. This is Cunningham. Out of defence. Again, virtually 4 straight down. Spur finds Pearce. Pearce outside the 50, comes across the ground. Clark comes back, 55 metres out. Toughest spot to kick a goal from if he decides to go that route. And this one holds its line pretty well, but a good mark is taken in defence by that man again. If he was stock, I'd be buying. Naismith.
Back here.
Just a handful of games. Made his debut about 4 rounds ago against Geelong. Out of the back pocket to the wing. Rowan couldn't do much with it. Clark goes after it. Comes back to Rowan though. 50-50 ball. Dawson taken down. Ball rolls away. Neal, Mundy, let it fall. Umpire lets them play. Hewitt grabs it and kicks a high one.
2-on-1. And Sutcliffe peels off his man Heaney. Takes it. Sheridan. It opens up here for Main. Ball just went slightly behind him. Across to Mundy. 60 out. The captain. Clever kick over the top, looking for Yaron. Spoilt. Comes to Crozier. Around his body. On the left. And there's some silk. Inside forward 50 for Fremantle.
A lot of Fremantle touch that ball. Players touch the ball in that passage of play before eventually, if you do keep forcing yourself to the footy, keep forcing it forward, and then Crozier just got the space to convert.
Smith at the second attempt knocks it forward. Mitchell in midair. Weller goes after it. Hewitt had it momentarily. Parker gets a hand pass away. Langdon been good in the last 10 minutes. Ibbotson hooks it out wide. Missed out there by Crozier. Mitchell took a while. Fumbled by Cunningham. Getting an arm in Taverner. Cunningham eventually. It's a good victory for them. Give it across towards Towers. Towers kicks to the 50. Ibbotson comes up and does well. Last 10 inside 50s. Prior to that last one for Sydney. All Fremantle. Says Spur. Bouncing across half back. Interesting to be a fly on the wall at half time. Don't normally talk about percentage coaches, but percentage very important after the Giants' big win yesterday. Sydney, if they win today, will catch up on points, but they're off the pace now on percentage as Kennedy. Mills did well in that pack. Ball goes bouncing down towards the pocket and out of bounds.
Since that point, yeah, everyone knows the percentage is going to be important, but actually winning the game first is always the first priority. If you run out of the field thinking we've got to get a good percentage building win here, the minds aren't in the right spot.
The wind and the rain has arrived. Nearing half-time here. Nankervis in front. Hill overran it. Mitchell, slick hands. Fend off by Parker, but he left the ball behind. Mundy, a floater, defensive 50. Smith with a timely fist. Kennedy stands in the tackle. De Boer dumped. Inadvertently comes back to Kennedy. And Main, with a couple of teammates, provide the tackle on Hewitt. Matthew Pavlich, some running repairs.
Bit impressive by Fremantle, the way they've sort of gritted their teeth late in this quarter.
Canterbury over the top, looking for Parker, and Weller can't keep that ball alive. Just over 2 minutes to play before half-time. The margin 23. And the Swans stifling Fremantle despite having So many inside 50s in this quarter. Silvani couldn't take the mark. Kennedy around his body. Oh, he is from the top shelf midfield. What a superstar he is.
Great goal.
It's a goal out of nowhere, isn't it? Just a great finish.
Jump out on ballers.
Didn't think about feeding it off. It's not hard to... A lot of pressure. Slightly slippery ball. You've got to take your chances now.
Back in the middle then. Weller through the footy. Just going back to Josh Kennedy. Twice best and fairest. Runner-up twice in the best and fairest at Sydney. Third twice. That's a lot of consistency and great football. Towers goes back for second dibs. Just rolls away to Jack, who's been pretty quiet. Wide of the pack. It's taken by Tucker. Kicks it towards the outer side wing. Taberner could have been held. It rolls to De Boer. Nicely played. Walters. Haven't seen much of him. Pavlich goes around the outer side. And this one bounces close to the boundary line and goes out.
And just on Josh Kennedy, guys, 25 disposals before half-time. Hanbury 21. They're not the names you want on the top of the Sydney possession-winning list.
Talk to people at Sydney too. Ask them who's the best player on their list. Surprisingly, in the early days, they said Kennedy. Not so surprisingly now. Here's Jack finding a way through. Penetrating kick inside the forward 50. Ibbotson, he's tried hard back there. Doing well. To Collins. They've had a player in Collins from Box Hill. Sutcliffe to Spur. His 100th game, as we mentioned earlier. Played his footy at Central District in South Australia. Came from Queensland originally. Short one to Sheridan. Play-on's the call, so it comes back to Sutcliffe.
Second sticking away here. The Dockers down by 29 and not looking overly adventurous, although Silvani presents in a more central position. Pushing it wide, and Langdon was taken over the shoulder.
Been pretty good, Langdon. He's done quite a few good things this afternoon and banking on some good form over the previous few weeks as well.
Been outstanding for Peel in the WAFL this year as well, but he too goes laterally. Sutcliffe. Collins, the next link in the chain, but as we've seen so often with the Dockers this season, they just haven't looked after the football as well as what they have in previous years.
I want to go back through the centre square, but the Swans covered the centre square option, so going from back flank to back flank, they weren't even getting anywhere even if they maintained possession.
Naismith, first hand again, knocks it down. Parker left it behind. Weller to Mundy, who's had a good turn. Pavlich stifles the bounce. There's the siren for half-time. And Sydney, despite working up into the breeze and a fair bit of attack from Fremantle, increased their lead in that quarter. It was 19 at quarter time. It's now 29. Half-time at Domain Stadium on a Sunday afternoon. Fluky weather. It stopped raining again. 7-7 plays 3-2. We'll be back. Half-time activities right after this. Or find out more at your local Toyota dealership. So both sides aren't back on the ground as yet. Sydney are out there. John Longmire, no doubt thinking long-term beyond this game. His team a real show now for the premiership. Not so much of what we've seen today, but what we've seen over the season. And they've lost a few close ones too, which has held them back. And clearly, in the rooms with the Fremantle Dockers, Ross Lyon is having a bit to say.
But I guess, Lee, in the past fortnight at least, they were terrific against Hawthorn, albeit in defeat. And then last week, perhaps a little bit below their best against the Blues. So trying to find that happy medium in the next 2 months.
Well, as Dennis mentioned, winning the close games, Hawthorn have had five close games, won them all, which is the reason they're top of the ladder. They're 4-2. 2-4. Sydney, they're 4 close games they've lost. A couple they have actually won. So that's the difference in the win or two that could put them on the top.
Nat Fyfe is standing by with Peter Bell.
Yes, thanks, Ten. Nat, improved effort from the boys in the second quarter. What are you expecting in the second half?
Yeah, it's a little better. The conditions out here are really swirly, so it's tough to see whether one end's being favoured. Our guys are really got to hit in. Their midfield is elite, big bodies. We've got to absorb them in the pressure early and try and go back at them.
They are the gold standard, Sydney. Just their ability to contested wins and also the way their ball handling is so clean.
Yeah, they have been clean. I think we've had a lot more uncontested marks, building the ball a lot better, but in the conditions, they're getting it in and scoring. A few of their power forwards kicking goals.
What is your role with the injury on match day from a coaching perspective? We've seen you doing a bit of work.
Yeah, I'm very much in a listen and learn role up in the box, but when I come down at half-time, I try and get around to the mids and the guys that I have impact on and just try and get behind them and let them know I'm in their corner still.
And have to ask you about the rehabilitation from the leg injury. How's that going?
Going really well. I ran yesterday and I've got surgery this week to get these plates out of my leg and look to build for next year.
We all hope you've got another 10 years minimum left playing football, but this little bit of coaching, has that whetted the appetite a little bit for after your playing days?
Not in any way at all. I'm pretty keen to be back out in the grass, to be honest.
Good luck in the second half. Thanks, mate.
Nat Fyfe, and you can understand how much the Fremantle Dockers have missed him when you look at the numbers. Brownlow votes in the last 5 home and away matches between these two clubs. He's polled in each of those games 11 out of a possible 15 votes.
You know, he's a gigantic absence, and of course Big Sandilands, who's the dominant sort of tap ruckman, is missing as well, but they're doing okay in that part of the game. They're just slightly ahead in the clearances. Mundy's doing a good job in close. Hill's taken a few, and he's more on the outside of the contest. Neil's got a few, so that part of the game has been really solid for them today.
Second half at the main stadium. Swans with a lead of 29 points. Kennedy, his 26th possession, goes down towards half forward. Up comes Richards, that's Xavier Richards, bumped off the line of the footy and it runs out of bounds. As I said a little bit earlier, 48. It's the greatest number of possessions in any one game this season.
1 metre, guys, 1 metre.
Patrick Dangerfield and Tom Rockcliffe have that distinction. Naismith's in front here. Clark from behind did well, got it down to Neil, across to Pearce. High ball, almost the mark to Aaliyah. Thinking quickly, Crozier kicks it down towards half forward. Gathered by Yaron. Yaron tries to pull it back towards the middle. Dangerous ball. Grundy will deal with it. And deal with it he does. Rampy. Now Mills. And they work it out methodically. Back to Mills. Got it from Cunningham and Richards.
Like clockwork, the Sydney Swans defence. Richards off a step. A bit of separation for Hanbury over the top. Franklin. Silvani did well enough. And Buddy forced to retreat. Hanbury. It'll pitch just in front of Heaney. Brilliant gather. Back to Lance Franklin. 48 out. Hand pass to Mitchell. Over the top. Here's Hewitt. Hard up against the boundary. And he tried to channel his best Peter Dacos without success.
I'm sure Silvani thought, oh no, I'm going to have to chase Franklin 40 metres from about the 70 metres out, but he actually had the momentum, so Buddy decided to try and come back inside. Didn't quite get through.
Spur. Neil. Not much gain with that, other than I think you know where Fremantle are going now. Neil.
They've tried to chip it around their back half, haven't they? But they haven't been able to. They've been able to do that, maintain possession really well. They've had a lot more kicks, but can't get the ball quickly into their scoring area.
Aaliyah does brilliantly. Good mark, juggled. A lot to like about this young man. Forward of the wing. Spent time with the East Fremantle Colts, did Aaliyah, after spending time in Queensland before that. This is Heaney. Just lobbing it high, close to the boundary line. Coming across, Naismith.
It's a nice mark, isn't it? Genuine pack mark, you mentioned a couple of times. He might have taken only 1 or 2, but 1 or 2 is really strong in the right spots.
And I reckon Lockie Neal's rib cage is going to be pretty sore if you watch the replay there. Big Naismith coming through and collecting the man, dropping into the hole.
Sam Naismith. As I said earlier, saw him make his debut just about a month ago against the Cats. And he's gone from strength to strength in the space of a month. And this one has the goal umpire moving, but it's a goal. Well done.
Impressive goal from North Shore in New South Wales. Rookie draft in 2013, and again looks like a player who's got a lot of upside, as most of the big guys do. They're 24, 25 before they're really ready.
Any naysayers about Naismith being silenced, and he wins the ball out of the middle. Kick not intercepted by Spur. Heaney confronts him face on face. Just the Sydney Swans mix of youth and experience has them inside the top 4 and potentially another successful September campaign / October. Naismith, not sure about that disposal. Lloyd off the outside of his boot to the hot spot. Spur try to smother the ball. Mitchell digs it out, comes across to Richards, and maybe he becomes an X factor.
Xavier Richards made his debut 3 years ago, first time in his career. Last week and this week he's played back-to-back games. Down goes Neil.
It was pinned to him.
Kept control of Lachie Neale to a good extent this afternoon. Out of ring at the circles. Clark, Mundy, Neale, Hill, Walters under pressure, affects the kick. Lear over the top, couldn't mark it. Mills tidies up, comes to Cunningham. They're trying to consolidate a spot in this team. Not so this man, Kennedy. Across the ground, McVeigh, meters in the clear. Just kicks down towards Heaney on the bounce. Brilliant stuff by Heaney. Wonderful gather and the presence of mind to give it off. Buddy's in trouble. That's holding it, surely. Every time he goes near the footy, players around him from the opposition do have the appetite to go in after him.
Draws the crowd, doesn't he, Dennis? Every time he's got the ball, there's a couple of Fremantle Dockers players on his tail.
That has been to Sydney's advantage on a couple of occasions, as we've seen today.
I think so, because, I mean, that's one of the things they would have said at half-time. We've got to be careful to lower the eyes, make sure, don't just go to Franklin, make sure that if it went out, fine, but if he's outnumbered, go to the spare player.
John Longmire looking a little more content. Brilliant hands. Kennedy can't get enough bend on this. And it just pitches before going out. Not the worst result for the Swans.
Their clearance work in this third quarter has been excellent. Sydney, Kennedy, Parker, not the start Fremantle wanted in the third quarter.
Alex Silvani with the job on Lance Franklin. Ibbotson is the third man up. Towards the boundary, Kennedy. No room to move here. Walters dropped what he may have taken. Spinning out of trouble was Dawson. Rampy has had the measure of Pavlich this afternoon. That trend continues. Grundy stabs it to Lloyd. Wants to keep going. He's got men either side, but he's held up momentarily. And hence, he now has to search for a longer option. To the hot spot. And Ibbotson, in his prime, intercept mark specialist, and that's a case in point.
Where the big forwards have to just force themselves to the ball in the air and make sure the intercept mark's not possible. A lot of players back, so you had to really go long. So if you're going to go long, go deep.
Franklin, nobody near him, turns around from long range. And he misses. Anticlimactic.
The player, Den, the player I'd like to talk about just for a moment, Callum Mills, it's like he's been playing half-back for 10 years, such as his composure and poise.
They love him, Sydney, don't they? High ball outside the defensive 50, and Clark, it was a touch ball. Clark took it cleanly enough. Walters, now Hill is running. He's been pretty quiet this afternoon. Not a bad kick, though, lobbing it over the top or trying to. There's Mills, played it very well back on Yaron. Pavlich, tackled, taken down. Still, though, the Dockers have got the run of it. Weller in trouble, back to Crozier. He's about 35 metres out, picked up by De Boer, tries to go back to Weller. Over the football, Yaron. Mills could have been taken high there, no free kick. And we get a whistle.
It's all labour intensive for the Dockers, though, isn't it, going forward?
Oh, yeah.
Cross line, that look has been prevalent for most of 2016. So much frustration attached to this year on so many fronts. Jack across to Lloyd, and the counter attack is on here. Richards. Franklin is inside the centre circles. He's used now. Waiting for some options. Kennedy presents and sends Heaney on a foot race. Spur. Heaney, it sits well for him. Has Towers in support outside of the boot. And the Swans continue to surge.
It's just a foot race over the top. They had the players back initially, the Dockers, but eventually the two Swans players flooded forward quicker.
Knocked down by Collins. Neil gives it to Mundy. Sends it inside the forward 50. Pavlich doing some hand-to-hand combat there, but fell over. And Rampy took a good mark. Chips it out to Cunningham, who wants to run. Short. McVeigh.
Push that, Shane. Push that, Shane.
McVeigh at left half back. Sunshine now here in Perth. McVeigh. Altitude on this one. As a result, won't be easy. A clean ball as far as Sydney are concerned. Sutcliffe tackled by Rowan. A clever hand pass by Neil. Gave it to Spur. Cross it came from Tucker. Mundy kicks it down towards half forward. Juggled by Taberner. Pavlich is dashing back. Rampy trying to block his path. Sends it in that direction. Pavlich is in front at least initially. But Grundy, terrific work. Came back, took the mark in front. And Pav just having a word about a player bringing Grundy to that situation.
Yeah, the subtle blocks happens all the time. It's very hard for the umpires to see them if they're just that little hold your position.
Hanbury. Sorry, late. Outside of the boot. Collins bounces it to Weller. Weller to Neil. Back to Weller. Neil is getting busy now. This is Tucker on the outer side. Now towards half forward. In the back to Cunningham against Yarran.
He's been good too, Cunningham, playing as part of that back six. They've all been good back there. Mills, Rampy.
Mills, 19-year-old. And the Swans spread. Papley. Hasn't Lance Franklin worked up and down the ground this afternoon? Kick just overshoots Silvani, intended for Jack, finds his man. And some prime movers getting involved into the hands of Kennedy.
Nice use, isn't it? Just knowing what position to go to and then to execute the skill to find the teammate. They did it really well off from that. About 5 consecutive kicks from half back to set shot, 25 metres out.
Coming off 35 disposals against Carlton. The reigning club champion, 4th in last year's Brownlow. We've spoken so highly of Josh Kennedy as a midfielder, and he begins to hurt Fremantle with a couple of goals this afternoon.
First time in a Sydney jumper that Josh Kennedy, not the Josh Kennedy that plays for the West Coast Eagles, but this Josh Kennedy has kicked multiple goals on this ground. Behind the pack, it's Mundy, comes away, goes towards half forward. Main with a bit of separation, could have almost got a free kick. Umpire thought about the decision. It's against Aaliyah. So Main looks down towards the pocket. This ball bounces very close to the line. Aaliyah got it from Grundy. Comes back to Mills under pressure. Kicks it outside the 50. Bounces obligingly for Pearce. Feeds it to Main. Hand passes to Hill. Hill kicks it directly to Hanbury. And I'm musing earlier about percentage. Well, coaches can't go on about that. It's just mentioned in oblique terms like don't stop, keep pushing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a term you never want to use as a coach. Now we need percentage.
That's right.
It's a bad term. Bad term.
Well, even the dumb guys know, well, we're in front.
Keep concentrating, keep the game playing going. Don't take advantage of it because you're well in front, all those things.
You've done it before. I didn't. Neil gives a head pass across towards Langdon, spell it off the boot of Pearce, and it goes out of bounds.
Having said that, you ask any coach, they don't look at the ladder, they don't look beyond next week.
No, you do. You may take a glance of it every now and again, but really it's not part of your week-to-week schedule at all, or your week-to-week thinking.
Swans have this game well in hand, out by 55. Naismith goes to ground. So to Weller. Parker over the football. Mundy. Pearce couldn't control it. Kennedy, as always. Heaney. And Nankervis wrestled to the ground by a couple of Dockers.
I think the Rockcliffe Dangerfield record of 48 this season could be in a bit of strife today. I don't want to put the kiss of death on Josh Kennedy. 33.
Scoring a lot of the footy.
He's opposed to Mundy at the present time, who wins it from the stoppage. And Hanbury ensures the skipper has no room to move. 5 losses in a row coming up for the Dockers. And Sydney, we know about their top 4 aspirations. This plus that percentage we've been talking about. So valuable at the business end of the season. Naismith been manhandled by Clark. No whistle. Neil releases Mundy. Smith. Parker and Aaliyah. They can work the middle now. And Lloyd drives it long. Dawson backed himself, couldn't completely control it. Papley off to Mitchell, time to assess. And the Swans put another dagger through Fremantle's heart.
He's a good player, Mitchell. I mean, they're line breakers, I guess, at the Swans. They haven't got too many of those, but gee, they've got a lot of real hard workers, good all-rounders, can get the ball and carry it as well.
Naismith did well in there. Hanbury, the beneficiary, wide. Now McVeigh in trouble. Had it a while. It'll be a free kick to Tucker. Plays on, running from behind is Sheridan. Gets himself into a tight situation. Weller, De Boer wider. Running hard again. Sheridan backed it up. Kicks inside the forward 50. Going back is Yaron. It's touched over the top, I fancy, by Boyd, or rather Lloyd.
Review underway.
Just wait until I give you a clear.
Bit of a problem, though. I mean, it's what we're doing now, but
confirmed touch.
It does mean in a tight game the defending side is certainly hampered because everybody should be closed up by now. Lloyd, not necessarily the case in this game, though. Grundy chips it to Heaney. Heaney has it hard against the boundary line. Just a little chip pass looking for, but not finding Rowan. Staying on his feet. Towers kept it alive. Well done. Close to the boundary line. Cruising past was Rowan. Knocking it out of bounds is Ibbotson. And just going back to percentage, talking about it, GWS big winners yesterday and held Richmond to 23 points. They started the day on 142. Geelong can't improve theirs today, of course. 133 they played on Friday. Sydney started the day on 134. Here's Aaliyah. Adelaide play later today. The percentage is 128. Jack, have a little kick. Towers. Hanbury. Bit of a fumble from Neil. Don't see that too often. Sheridan, Weller. Back it comes to Langdon.
Here's Tucker. That defensive 50, a sidestep on to his preferred left. Lloyd going back with the flight, went to ground. Yaron through his legs. Lloyd is surrounded, and the whistle comes. But 5 goals from stoppages. The Sydney Swans, that's their specialty, and today it has been in use.
That's where raw data can be misleading. Fremantle haven't scored from their stoppages, even though the raw number is equal with that of Sydney, 24 each.
The live ladder shows the Swans up to 3rd position and their percentage being built in the process. McVeigh, Mitchell, 55 out, unguarded goal square. And the percentage takes another spike.
It's flowing it beautifully now. Sydney, the conditions have improved, so the ground's dried up. And when they're taking the ball forward, their ability to maintain possession, find the right target and execute the right option is just getting the scoreboard really ticking.
Naismith again directed it down to Jack. Hewitt came in, couldn't do much with it. Hill, Walters, haven't seen much of him. Kicks down towards half forward. Yaron juggles the mark about 40 metres out of that.
Geez, I reckon that'd be almost the first contest that Fremantle have won in that part of the ground. The aerial balls. A good player, Nick Smith. He got a little bit of height on him, Yaron. But that was a good mark. But mostly the Swans defenders have just been too good in the air in anything like a one-on-one contest there.
Made his debut last week, showed a couple of things, kicked a couple of goals, and he hasn't been Fremantle's worst forward today.
Nick Smith, an All-Australian 2 years ago. Here's Yaron. And this one holds this line, through it goes. Well done.
Yeah, nice strong mark. 27-year-old mature age recruit, only playing his 2nd game. But he's got a bit of smoothness in the way he moves. He looks like he's got some talent back there.
A glimmer on a dark day for the Dockers. Kennedy to Parker, and Mitchell getting busy again. Sends a high ball. Franklin will get to the contest. Nobody, crashes the pack. And Papley and Silvani can't win the footy. It's off hands.
Plays an important role down there, Papley. He tends to be a little worker bee, the ground level chaser and tackler. He's not going to get a high stats, but that speedy little forward that pressures the opposition defence is really important.
At Fife, interested onlooker, and Curvis camped in front. And Jack immediately shut down by Spur.
Guys, got to keep the 1 metre. Keep the 1 metre.
Big quarter for the Swans. Essentially doubled their lead, out by 60 points. And perhaps more to come in the remaining 6 minutes of this quarter. Hanbury flips it out the back. Walters can't control it. And Kennedy, along with Dan Curvis in the end.
Toby, keep the 1 metre.
Like a bull. Josh Kennedy, he's up to 34 disposals. Mundy's third man up. Kennedy searching for it. So too Hill. Langdon on his left. Aaliyah kept his feet, importantly. And then he has a little slip. Off balance. Mark dropped by Spur. Franklin works it out to Mitchell. On his left. Oh, what a quarter he's having. Amazing.
We've played it all day. There's the quick hands, they're pressured handballs that go to the right option. Still maintain possession even though there's a lot of pressure.
Clever kick too by Mitchell. Had to give it some elevation quickly. Because of that, pulled back a little further, knowing the Breeze would catch it. His kick inside the forward 50, well, almost right on the line. Towers trying to barge his way through. Heaney, a good strong tackle. Gets Spur down and we'll get a ball up. So in the first term, Sydney kicked 3-7 going to the City end. In this term, it's 7-2. And they're looking really dangerous.
1 metre.
Clark, a backhander, standing off the pack with Spur, wrenching it away, his teammate, Mundy. Mundy comes again after Langdon's kick was smothered. Coughing it up was Walters, not having a good day. Parker, down goes Mitchell. Of course, blemish, he says he punched it. Umpire only 10 metres away, one of the best, umpire Ryan.
And the Dockers take the advantage. Tap it up. It's been starvation corner for some of these Dockers this afternoon, including the milestone man himself, Matthew Pavlich, finally wins the footy. Yaron growing in confidence. One of the more fluent build-ups for the Dockers so far this afternoon. Yaron doesn't hit it well. Almost marked by Tucker. Rampy slung in the tackle. And Langdon couldn't release it. And from this situation, the Swans are always difficult to get past. Just over 4.5 minutes remaining before three-quarter time. Sunday afternoon football coming to you from Domain Stadium. Mundy, touch ball to the top of the square. Walters around his body instinctively, but hit the wrong part of the football.
I'll get Lee Matthews to give an assessment of Sydney's run home. Port, St Kilda away, then North and then Richmond. Lee, what do you think?
Well, a chance every time they play, but I mean, you should. Here we are looking at it. There, who's at home? A game in Hobart will be difficult, but they'd be favourite in all those games. Maybe round 22 is a 50-50 bet going in.
And Curvis across half back, kicks beyond the wing, nicely done by Richards, just floating and taking this mark, looking it down towards half forward now, under the chest of Rowan, spotted it quickly, did Richards. Rowan, just a step in his approach. Franklin couldn't take the mark, runs free at the back. Now Zach has got a problem.
He was hoping and praying it would go out.
Done a good enough job in those one-on-one contests. Silvani, I mean, he just was able to just force Franklin under the footy without giving away a tunnelling free kick. He's been pretty good one-on-one in the air.
You wonder what an old coach would think if he got into the time machine, Marty McFly's time machine, came back and saw a defender standing over the ball, hoping, like a lawn bowler, hoping it goes out. There's Crozier, slips over. Clark, wow. Lack of awareness there, run down by McVeigh.
Well, not called that way. Clark gets a free kick.
Well, that's an interesting call.
Not sure about that one, guys.
Well, we're all completely stunned by that call. Yaron caught behind, did enough to spoil, and Naismith back onto the ground, can't control it.
I've got to say, quite often when a player runs from behind, he pushes in the back and the umpire just plays holding the ball. But no, that's not one of them. That's not. It was in the back at the.
I don't think John Momo was too impressed with the call.
It was unlucky, that one. Should have been holding the ball, I would have thought.
Nice work by Naismith, McVeigh, and in a tight situation, the Swans win the footy. Hanbury and Mitchell, the chemistry there just off the pace. 3 minutes to go before three-quarter time. No surprise the Swans dominating contested possession this afternoon. Naismith taken by Mundy, a tumbler. Smith in best position. Hand pass was knocked down. Yaron gets involved. Now Jack. A little fortunate not to be whistled. Parker stole it. Kennedy. And they start rolling again. Towers to a one-on-one. Silvani on the sprawl. He left Franklin and he had to take that mark.
Well, that's what the good defender has to do. He hasn't been playing much, Silvani, but he read the ball. He just didn't worry too much about Franklin. If you can get to the ball first, well, clearly your opponent's not going to get it.
Ball to the wing off hands.
A lot of defenders tend to worry too much about the body positioning of their opponent. When the ball's in the air, then that's the time to back your judgment.
Sydney by 66 points. Top four position is what they're chasing, and maybe beyond that is McVeigh. Hill and now Neal around his body. De Boer acrobatically ends up with Mills. And Lloyd taken down by Weller. De Boer gives it out to Tucker. A little fumble, that was costly. Parker also runs into trouble. Umpire letting them play. Kennedy, McVeigh and Mundy. De Boer intercepted by Rampy. An afternoon he's having. Cunningham, and it wasn't clean out the back, but the Swans with ample time. Smith and Grundy just ambling his way to defensive 50. Thought about pulling it back towards the middle. Well weighted for Rowan, and he's one of those players for Sydney going forward. So much versatility and the leg speed which can create havoc for the defence. Heaney from behind, almost. At ground level, Sutcliffe wins it. Lands at the feet of Ibbotson. In turn to Neal, untidy, gathered by Collins. And the sting's gone out of this one for the time being. Pearce. Halving the contest was Heaney. If he can gather and give, it's an opportunity for Rowan to straighten up from 45 out. It is a clinic.
Doesn't tend to get a lot of the ball. Rowan, when he can, he's got enormous speed, so he can take off, put the afterburners. When he accelerates, he's not going to get run down from behind. Just gives you great confidence to be able to do that and kick the long. He doesn't get a lot of the footy, but it's a really dangerous, almost that fourth in between forward. Not quite a key position player, not quite a crummer. Going to be a big win, isn't it, for the Swans? And their ruckman have been okay, but I still think if they can get Tippett back fit and well, that is something that could elevate them to the very top if he can get over that injury and be ready for September at his best.
He's having a good season, wasn't he? Mundy kicks it out wide, and this one runs out of bounds.
Lee, do you see Sydney as the team most likely to contend with Hawthorn?
I've always thought probably they're the proven ones. I mean, the Giants are just unproven. They look fantastic, but they haven't proved it on the MCG in September yet. So my top three for a while have been Hawthorn, Swans and Geelong as the most likely to be able to do it in the last day.
Another possession for Kennedy, so he's up to 37 now. Pete's declared the record's in danger, and it is. He's 11 off the highest number of possessions in a game this season. As we said, Rockcliffe and Dangerfield.
9 in contested possession, 8 clearances amongst those numbers. So he goes and earns the footy. He just doesn't get the outside one.
Naismith.
Done it again.
Yeah.
And remember today they're probably with Callum Sinclair out. Naismith and Nankervis are virtually the third and fourth ruckman, but Naismith has been strong in the air, taken 4 strong marks.
Siren sounds then. It's three-quarter time at Domain Stadium. And Sydney really kicking it up a cog there. 8 goals in that term. And they lead 59-99 to 4-3-27 as we await the final term on a Sunday afternoon.
Big margin for the Sydney Swans at three-quarter time, out by 72 points. And that third term, a 7-goal performance, their second best ever in a quarter in WA. Their midfielders getting involved. Josh Kennedy, superb with 37 disposals, and Tom Mitchell was instrumental as well. As we head downstairs to Peter Bell.
Yeah, not a whole lot to report from an injury perspective here for both sides, but one interesting part of the game has been Sydney's midfield getting involved on the scoreboard. Traditionally, they're not a high-scoring midfield. 7 on the board, though, from Mitchell. Also, Kennedy got involved. Luke Parker got involved as well. That's another element to their game this year. The other bit I like is a young fella, Heaney, going up into the midfield. He's just something a little bit different for Sydney, and we might see a bit more of that as they embark upon another finals campaign.
Well, the Docker skipper's going okay. David Mundy, you saw there, 19 contested possessions, a dozen possessions in that third term, but the odds insurmountable.
It's interesting, Dennis. I think as much as you could say there's a opponent v opponent, Mundy is actually playing on Kennedy. They're not following each other around, but it is one of those where both players are just getting incredible numbers.
Yeah. Venture to say Kennedy's getting more help. Naismith, Hanbury. There's Kennedy about to swoop. And watch his progress. Cunningham kicks it down towards half forward. Silvani reaching. He's back after it. Then fumbles. Helped him actually. Stopped him. And as a result, the traffic went past. There's Mitchell. Still a third term. Breaks away. Looping hand pass. Kennedy. They're mounting inside the forward 50. Is the mark taken by Richards? It was. I'd like him to get up and mark the spot with his boot. We could have X marking the spot, but he will not do that. He will not do that. But I'm lurking, Lee.
Yeah, no, he forced his way. He forced his way to the front, took a beautiful mark, but didn't play his part of the bargain to give it a.
No. Should have notified him.
Dennis. Send the message down via belly.
Too late now. Kick is good though. Big second half by Sydney.
Nice kicking action, isn't it?
Yep.
Not much pressure on the Swans now. I mean, they're well in front, so they've been kicking plenty of goals. So the player with the ball is nice and relaxed.
Ravi Richards doubling his career tally in a day, and the Swans are on the move yet again. Man in question, 55 out, thumping kick, but it's well wide of the mark.
Yeah, the eyes lit up then, didn't it? He knew that he was going to be able to wheel onto the 50-metre line. There was no obvious forward target, so he had to have a go from long range, but just missed-kicked it a fraction.
And visions of grandeur, looking for back-to-back goals. Nankervis, won't reach him. Mundy, back fits it. Jack, went to the voice of Mitchell. Dawson, Hill, Mundy, and now Yarran getting a piece of it. Under pressure though, the Dockers. Aaliyah wins it back, and Curvis's kick was smothered by Clark. Mundy breaks free across to Dawson. Poor handball. The ball there to help out, and the Dockers to the wing. Pavlich in front, ball knocked away. Grundy gathers, and Cunningham hands it across to Lloyd. The Swans can reload. Inside the 50, Naismith almost. Langdon's hand pass ends up with Sheridan. Now Neal across his body. Weller works his man off it, only to the advantage of Cunningham. And he spots Franklin 70 metres from home. The Swans are building again, and options galore. The Dockers' defence being sliced and diced after half-time. Kennedy bobs up again.
That ball usage of the forward 50, it's something I think is the great strength. Hawthorn will do it better than anyone, just find the right target inside 50, and the Swans in this second half have just done it beautifully.
Far be it from us to hand out Brownlow votes before the umpires, but with 38 disposals and potentially 3 goals next to his name, Josh Kennedy has been the man of the moment this afternoon. Just fades across the face, and Clark takes the intercept mark.
Just there, no more.
Margin 78 points then. They made their move in the third term. They led by 29 at half-time. Here's Pavlich, strong mark. Hasn't been for lack of effort. He worked hard in the first half. He was probably as good a forward as they had, but that kick, disappointing.
Talk about the number of kilometres he's travelled, over 860,000 in his footy career. Can you imagine Dennis jumping on a plane that regular?
I reckon Dennis would have done about 10 times that amount, wouldn't you, over your commentating career, Dennis?
I wrote that question for Dorothy Dixer, as they say. Yes, but he was doing something sort of strenuous at the other end.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they haven't played better today for a day that he will always remember. Still coming out with the children, the done thing now, and that will be with him forever. Digital, not like the old days with the VHS.
Don't like to be a party people, but I don't know whether you remember your 150th or your 250th. You might remember your 350th because it's late in your career. The big game will be the last one he plays. He will remember that. That'll be a sad day for him.
Well, you and he are sort of in that elevated space. A bit different for people like myself. I get excited with 50 minutes as the ball goes close to the boundary line and it's out of bounds.
Just outside the attacking 50 for Fremantle. As Matthew Pavlich got a couple of moments left in his 350th game. Clark did it well to Neil. McVeigh got a hand in there. Langdon. And Spur was held a long time in the tackle. Advantage was taken. Not sure it proved to be just that. Sutcliffe over the top of Jack. A scramble inside the centre square. Fremantle win it back. Langdon to Neil. Is this Pavlich's moment? Rampy has been his master today, and so it proves again. Smith takes something off the kick, and Cunningham takes the short ball across Jack as another shower arrives.
Been strangely quiet. Kieran Jack today hasn't been a big day for the Sydney co-captain.
Playing game number 203. Runs off the line, hugs the boundary line. Naismith could not take the mark, but in terms of a September audition, Lee, he's done plenty today.
Yeah, Naismith's been good. He's 24, which is about the time that the average big guy's ready to play ruck at AFL senior level, and he's certainly done his bit and looked dangerous in the air.
Nankervis beaten by Clark. Neil couldn't take it cleanly. Hill kicks it forward. Walters up. Falls to Tucker. Kicks inside the forward 50 on the bounce. Rampy. Just a bit too nimble for the Pav. Comes away. Not a particularly good kick though. Nankervis. Parker does well, taken high. Advantage is taken by Mitchell. And the hand pass will slide out of bounds. So that's a mistake. Won't cost them too much, but 105-27. Very good place for Sydney to be, but they're pressing on, as we said. Percentage is not something talked about, but something important this afternoon.
At margin 78, 15 minutes remaining in this one. Neither ruckman gets a clear hand on it. Hanbury delightfully outright McVeigh. Once this Sydney Swans midfield hits top gear, there's few teams that can shut them down. That ball for Kennedy wasn't perfectly designed, but there may be a 50-metre penalty with David Mundy encroaching.
A little bit unlucky that he went quickly. It looked like Mundy was trying to get out of the air. It's a really fine line decision for the umpire. Was that player who's not on the mark? Is he trying to get out of that area, protected, to allow the player to move the ball on? Interesting call. So Mundy's ran from behind. I think he's a little unlucky. The thing is, he's running on the diagonal. You've got to run virtually straight out sideways.
And Josh Kennedy with no problem completing and scoring his third goal.
Let's have a look at this again. He's marked the ball. He's in the area, Mundy, and he almost gets in the way because Kennedy wants to come inside. But that in a way is the purpose of the rule, to make sure that player like Mundy gets out of the area where the player with the footy might want to play it on.
Parker. Heaney. The voice goes back to Smith. Smith sends it down towards half forward and Jack. Jack looping hand pass out wide. Irrepressible. Hanbury goes very wide. Papley slides. Struck him on the body. Stays in initially. No, just trickles across the line. So Josh Kennedy is up to 40 possessions now. Mundy a couple away from that. Papley has been busy. He made the point, worker B on the forward line. Certainly a willing worker, but things haven't gone his way. Nankervis jabs it hurriedly and scores a behind. Increases the lead. 112-27.
Well, the air's been sucked out of Fremantle, and they've been dominated from the opening bouts. Crozier assesses the options, and this ball is floating over despite the best efforts of Yarran.
We mentioned big Kurt Tippett, he'd be a welcome inclusion, and I guess Zach Jones is the other one who could force his way into this lineup.
The depth of Sydney is unquestionable, and to have the luxury of Kurt Tippett waiting in the wings as Clark launches himself. Hewitt across to Hanbury, and just pulled it too far across his body. He rues that missed opportunity.
There's the point as Bally's making is the next players in got a bit of experience. They're just not untried kids. So they've got a pretty strong 30-man squad to choose from.
Sheridan to himself, and then he drives it outside the defensive 50. Pavlich again had it punched away by Grundy that time. Towers to Heaney, runs to 50, long kick, beauty.
Beautiful strike, wasn't it? He knew he'd have to kick through the ball, controlled power, but he timed it beautifully and made the distance easily.
The Swans doing it on their terms at the moment. Hill, Pearce and De Boer. Clark helps out on his left side. Pearce's kick was errant, and no issue there for Lloyd.
It came from the Naismith chase. He actually chased, put the pressure on, and that you don't always actually lay a tackle, putting the pressure on.
Josh Kennedy up to 41 disposals. Ball almost turned over. Collins is equaling his career high for Josh Kennedy, so you'd expect in the last 12 minutes that would be eclipsed. Clark did well. Hill sidestepping beyond the 50. Grundy going back fearlessly, and Smith across to Mills. Heaney pushes to the wing, and Towers presents. Heads inboard to Franklin. And Franklin, always a good field kicker.
Yeah, beautiful kick, isn't it?
Heaney provides the run. Weller shuts it down. Clark laterally to Langdon. And the kick was affected with the push, but it worked out well. Pavlich sets Weller a task. Go off the deck. Walters hasn't had much joy this afternoon. Lloyd knocks it forward. Jack, near where Lloyd was. Oh, that's dangerous by Zach Dawson. He's taken him out high, and clumsy, I guess, is the best word to describe Zach Dawson's actions there.
Yeah, clumsy. In his defence, I think it was Lloyd fumbled the footy, but clearly it's going to be looked at more than once, that's for sure.
Report has been made. Front on contact, no doubt, the charge. And Lee on inspection.
Oh, yes, no, he saw the contact coming, Dawson, and he tucked his shoulder or his head behind his shoulder, and therefore his shoulder went into Mills. I think it's Mills, isn't it?
No, Lloyd.
Into Lloyd's head. So no, that's the high bump. That's what we're trying to umpire out of the game. So on the rare occasion a player does do that,
Nick, I'm going to give it to you, okay?
That's a suspension in the offing for sure.
Problem is it goes past the footies there.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
behind him.
it is. Yeah. No, I mean, it's if one player sees the second. If both players have got their eye on the footy, then it's an accident. But Dawson sees Lloyd, protects himself, but in protecting himself, his shoulder hit Lloyd's head, so he has offended badly. Hopefully he's all right and he's walking off the field. So
he's walking from the ground, Lee, and he's a tough player. In fact, he hasn't missed a game since 2014. Lloyd, he's been a valued and consistent member of the team, and he's just jogging off now. Hopefully he's okay.
You updated on the condition of Lloyd. Franklin rushes the tackle of Clark, a sidestep. Corridor ball works out okay because McVeigh has the sure hands. Aaliyah peels off. And the Swans running all over Fremantle here. Wasn't a great kick, but Heaney gathers at the 50 instinctively. Goes all the way. What a kick.
On 7 News, a powerful tribute from young mates and footy heroes to a boy killed in a gun tragedy. A man stabbed while confronting a thief, now left fighting for life. Police step in to release angry protesters from their self-imposed cage. Traders lash out as the Frankston train line is ready to reopen at last. The next chapter for excited Harry Potter fans, and the stunning result of a Daredevil's 7-kilometre freefall without a parachute. All the details coming up at 6.
We see the live letter there, and Sydney's percentage now is creeping up towards the Giants. So it's been a good win, good 4 points, and a good percentage booster already for the Swans.
Another 9 points and they're in second place, but they didn't fall off the pace today, and that's important. GWS in very good terms with themselves after the Tigers game. That surge in percentage. Pearce to Pavlich. Okay. The crowd getting a chance to express their feelings. They did earlier when he ran on the ground, but tough day for him and his teammates. And now a real buzz going around the ground. If he kicks it, they're sure to make a noise despite the scoreboard. So the pressure on the Pav to orchestrate his own reception. Kick is good.
He's always had a beautiful kicking action, always been a reliable shot at goal. And yeah, they play Fremantle against the Bulldogs here in the last round of the season, which will be obviously his last game. And anyone in West Australia who loves their footy, I reckon, would like to get here to send a warm welcome off. But that's 4 weeks' time. He's still going today.
It was interesting earlier today, Lee, talking about the Pav as he sits down after that goal, and Boomer Harvey, the two extremes of the two real extremes of the modern day midfielder. Although Pav probably doesn't claim that, but he hasn't changed that much since he was in the midfield. It's a unique style and unique body, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yep, the sun's setting on this wonderful career, but moments like that will be cherished for everyone at this ground this afternoon. The result, not what Dockers supporters would have wished, as Hill hands it to Pearce, gets time to look, assess, hasn't got the legs with the kick. Yaron did pretty well in that situation to halve the contest.
Yes, well, the modern midfield, I mean, whether it's Fife or his teammate Fife or Bontempelli or Cripps, they're probably taller than Pavlich. Some of these midfielders are getting up almost into the mid-190s themselves.
Yeah, Bontempelli, just checking him out the other night. What a player he's going to be. I mean, not even 21 yet. Late November he turns 21. Crozier forward. Some talking going on there. Tucker decides to send it down towards full forward. Grundy. He's been resolute back there. A lot of people suggesting he was getting slow and a problem in defence, but gee, he's proved the critics wrong. He had one bad game, I think, early in the season. A lot of people jumped on, but he's fought back brilliantly. There he is again. Sends it around the outer side wing. It's a good mark by Clark. Plays on. Crozier in space. Takes on the tackler. Dawson back to Crozier. This kick in hope inside the forward 50. Great judgment there by Mills. Back to Grundy.
Pushing wide. Collins, good use of the body. And then content to walk it over.
No way to sugarcoat it, guys. It's been disappointing for Fremantle. We know how good Sydney are, but this has been a comprehensive defeat, and how polished Sydney are today has been super impressive.
Offline holding court in the coach's box. Neil feels the full brunt of Nankervis.
47 from the side first.
It's been surrounded regularly this afternoon. Neil in tight situations. Contested footy won again by the Swans. Hanbury, a wrestle ensues. Sutcliffe sliding in. Happily lucky not to lose his footing. And Franklin, Buddy, has converted. Hits it sweetly from outside 50.
Yeah, that was the one where probably that sliding into the legs, fortunately, the Swans player got himself out of the way. That's the the dangerous slide then by Dawson. He is actually bending the rules a little today.
Hand pass came from Jack, then Curvis, Towers, and they move forward again. Papley's got it, plays on quickly. Franklin sets it up down towards full forward. Going back is Richards. The ball stays in. He takes a swing at it, misses it. Dawson picks it up, bounces a hand pass across to Spur, runs the boundary line. Sutcliffe, short one. And now Langdon, who can hold his head up tonight, comes out to Mundy, who's at left half back. So as it stands, this loss, it's going to be that. The Dockers, the biggest to any team outside of Western Australia, meaning they lost to Western by more. And Walters takes a spectacular mark. Well, blanketed all day long, but still the brilliance of the man comes into focus late. Ball is out of bounds. No, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, it seems only short years ago, wasn't it, when that final here, there was a preliminary final, wasn't it, when Fremantle's first half just completely demolished the Swans. But since then, Fremantle had a really good year home and away series last year, but obviously just this is their one down the year. But the Swans, they just continue to be up around the action.
Sunsun Walters with some elevation. A rare moment for Dockers supporters to remember. Kennedy pitches it in front of Franklin. Ends up with Mundy. The run provided by Hill. Sweeping hand pass. The Dockers open here. Crozier. And now Neal. It's been a big afternoon for him. Gets a good look from outside 50, but doesn't have enough on it. And Grundy, uncontested, heads wide to the boundary where Mitchell is stationed.
And Kennedy watches up to 44 disposals, 16 kicks, 28 handballs, just racking them up, 10 clearances, 3 goals. That's a fair day at the footy.
Swans run it out of defence. Towers, Parker. Rowan peels off. Down to 6:45. Heaney out the back. And that was far too simple.
It's usually when the defence presses up, which is the modern coaching instruction, but Heaney was able to just run back quicker into the space. And the long kick over the top, defender just can't get back to contest.
Some big numbers being racked up by midfielders from both teams. David Mundy up to a career high 42. Lockie Neal on 38. And Isaac Heaney, he is the present and the future for Sydney. And he steers home another goal.
It's his 3rd goal for the quarter and really struck them beautifully each time. He's got a lovely kicking action, lovely taunting step.
Terrific young player. A lot of them around this competition. Mundy coming up for 43, but needs to control it first. Dragged off it. Jack, quick hands. Parker. Grundy sends it down towards half full. Clever use of the body by Main. Allows him to take the mark, and then a little chip pass out wide. Tucker finds the ball on the deck. The longer it's gone, the better he's got. Main back inside the defence of 50, and Silvani, who started on Franklin, is with him again now. Sutcliffe has got it. 15 metres out from his defensive goal. Crozier had to hurry. Mitchell's standing the mark. An outstanding 3rd term. And now Crozier looks up the middle, goes to Mundy, ambitious. Mundy does well.
The skipper with 43 next to his name. Laterally to Main. Touched off the boot. Clark now made aware of that. Didn't like anything forward of the play, so heads back to Main and turn to Crozier. Hence the frustration from Dockers supporters. Mundy gets involved again through the middle. Heads towards Pavlich. Too much carry on the kick. Yaron sweating on that. Mills is there. Weller with intent. Breaks the tackle. Around the body. Well, that's slick. Exciting footy from Lockie Well, and the young man who's finding his feet at this level.
Yeah, it's been hard yakka down there for the Fremantle Fours. The Swans' defence has been so solid. That was one of the fair occasions where in the air the ball just didn't go where the Swans' defence wanted it to go. Well, nice shot, nice snap. I tell you a man who would be worrying about the score still, Ross Lyon, he'd like to prevent the 100-point loss.
Yes.
90 points is better than 100 points. And we see now, point 3.
You can mention that.
That's right, you can mention that.
There's Hanbury. Of course, the Pabs goal changed what we were talking about. He was saying 9 points required, and suddenly they would have moved to second. But one goal really changes the whole dynamic. Papley, Richards in short, half volleyed there by Towers. Towers gives it back to Heaney. Clever kick to the advantage of Franklin. Franklin overran it, went to ground. So a Pyrrhic victory there for Silvani. In the overall, it doesn't matter too much. He gave it to Ibbotson. Ibbotson kicks to Mayne, and Mayne did well. Got in front of Jack and claimed it.
Taking the percentage into account, we still may be on track for a historic Sydney final. What would that do for the AFL in that state? Towers drives it outside the goal square. Parker had a piece of it, follows it up really well, and then he's taken to ground.
I reckon it was really good management of Isaac Heaney during the year by John Longmire and the Sydney coaching staff. He went through a bit of a flat patch, gave him a couple of weeks off, and he's back today, and he's going to be a really important player for their finals campaign.
3.5 minutes remaining in this one. Run over it. Neil.
Fremantle.
And the Dockers have won it. Well, there's one man. And Lachie Neale. He alongside David Mundy. So much of the footy today, but the dam wall burst pretty early for Fremantle.
Big numbers, isn't it? He's had 38 disposals, Mundy 44 and Kennedy 45. They're gigantic numbers for 3 players on the field at the same time.
Some indecision coming out of defence, and Weller has the ball destroyed by Cunningham. So it's been a great day at the office for the Sydney Swans. Well and truly ensconced inside the top 4 now, and those numbers, Josh Kennedy leading the way on the ground with 45 touches.
And Hanbury's had 39, so almost 4 players really close to 40 disposals for the afternoon.
Ross's biggest loss as a coach too. No wonder he looked glum moments ago. Langdon, hurried kick. Like Langdon, this ball bounces through midfield. Getting back Cunningham. Grundy doing much as he likes across half back. Leah learning from a good one. Smith comes out to Jack. Defensive side of right centre wing. It'll be interesting to see. We're talking about Sydney teams in the finals, how the AFL market the Giants. Not sure footy fans around the country know too many of them. Not exactly the who's who, it's more the who's who. But if they have a successful campaign, well, that will change. Very exciting outfit, the Giants.
Crowd getting stuck into Buddy Franklin. He's been pretty good. 2 goals, 3 and 20 disposals. Done a lot of his good work up the field.
A bell on the boundary as this ball goes out again. Close to Pete. Tom Harley, well, there you go. For Sook Television. Got a real job. Boundary thrown at the interchange gates.
Looks like Buddy Franklin's day is done. And he watches from the sidelines as Sydney win another clearance, although Richards took a while to grasp it. Allows Neale to swoop over the head of De Boer. Leah finds Hanbury. It'll be a triple figure margin. That's perhaps all that remains. Hanbury doesn't make great contact. Papley forced to work for it. Neale, a gather and give to Sheridan. Tucker with the left. Good delivery. Walters brilliantly sport from behind. And Mills cleans up. Smith got a timely fist in there. Mayne has won himself a footy.
He's probably a bit of an unsung hero, Nick Smith, to some. I know he's incredibly valued within Sydney, but he's got the ability to shut down Cyril Rioli. He's done a good job today. Plays a vital role, that small defender.
Here's Sheridan. Almost a full forward. Weller lays it off. Walters surrounded by Swans. Clever handball, De Boer, and now Sheridan thought about going for home, but the sense of the occasion got to him. And it's roundly celebrated. We saw Lindsay Thomas last night provide Boomer Harvey on his record-breaking match with a soda. This isn't quite in that category. But the Pav, with 694 career goals, perhaps to put the full stop on this milestone match. 40 metres out. It does not deviate off the boot.
And even the Swans supporters behind the goals are clapping. I mean, they can be happy now because they're going to the match one, but they were happy to join in the Fremantle supporters' applause for one of the much admired players in footy. I reckon he's got two university degrees as well. He was telling us the other day on game day, so you never know what might happen in Pav's life. Been a wonderful player, but a lot of good things will still to come.
As I mentioned earlier, everything he does on the footy field goes into Fremantle's record books. Games, goals, best and fairest, All-Australian selection. He is the benchmark. Billy used to be. Ball up, coming up just outside that outer ring.
His record's going to take some catching too, Den. There's no doubt about that. Perhaps Nat Fyfe one day, but it's a remarkable record.
Pete, you can take comfort in the fact you're a pioneer. Came over the top of you, did. Good mark is taken by Hanbury. Of course, Peter, success with North Melbourne, one of the greats there. Terrific player. Ball goes to the outer side, and a good mark is taken by Main. So, dying seconds of this one. They've held it under 100 anyway, the Dockers. Langdon, as I said earlier, can keep his head up, comes short to Pearce. Mark talking about speculation, Langdon might return home. Well, would suggest the Dockers would do well to keep him. Crozier on the siren, fittingly. Oh, let him mark it. Punched it away from the pad.
No sense of theatre.
That was a disgrace by Sydney. 21-11, 7-5. So the margin 90 points. And Sydney show us why they are in contention for another flag. They were terrific today.
Match ball given to Matthew Pavlich, and Lee, although the result didn't go his way, it was a 90-point defeat. I'm sure the Sydney Swans players beelining Matthew Pavlich.
No, absolutely. He was okay. I thought he played okay, Pavlich. He was beaten mainly in the one-on-one, you'd have to say, by Rampy, but he still was a valuable player for the Dockers. So it's not a great occasion for his 350th, but as we said, in about a month's time against the Bulldogs in final round of the season, that will be an emotional day for all at Fremantle.
Fremantle with a lot of work to do, but Sydney eyeing the prize now. They know they're good enough. Will break their way.
Josh Kennedy, 45 disposals, 3 goals. Ample support from the likes of Dan Hanbury, but Lee, this midfield is gathering momentum as we stand the ladder. Sydney in 3rd position there. The percentage takes a real boost today, up to 140.
Yeah, no, they're a good team, and if they play anywhere near their ability there. Again, in Ballyminks, Nick Smith is a small defender who tends to do well in the Surioli, who has sort of killed the opposition in the last few grand finals. So, no, they're a good team. They're certainly one to beat.
Margin 90 points then, Sydney's way. What a remarkable round 19. Milestones are made of this.